Today topic is fundamental concept on research. This is chapter number 2. So 2.1 research hypothesis, 2.2 sampling, 2.3 reliability and validity, 2.4 fieldwork. Hypothesis, let's brainstorming. What is hypothesis? Guess, hunch, an assumption, assume solution of problem, imaginary idea, predetermined answer of problem. What is research hypothesis? It is a statement about the population parameter, a statement which states the assumed solution of research problem or topic. A hypothesis is a tentative statement about the relationship between two or more variables associated with the research study. It is a specific testable prediction about what you expect to happen in your study or research. The notion of the scientific hypothesis as both falsifiable and testable was advanced in the mid 20th century by Austrian born British philosopher Karl Popper. Example: when you wake up early in the morning and found that bulb in room do not light, what are the possible assumptions or hypotheses? Hypothesis 1: load shedding or no electricity. Hypothesis 2: MCB off due to high voltage. Hypothesis 3: bulb fuse. Hypothesis 4: short circuit, and so on. Example number 2: fail in one of the subject, hope to pass. Hypothesis 1: copy checking. Hypothesis 2: mistake in adding the mark. Research hypothesis meaning: hypothesis is a predictive statement capable of being tested by scientific method. It is an educated guess based on research and working knowledge. Tentative generalization, the validity of which remains to be tested. In elementary stage, it may be hunch, guess, and imaginative idea which become basic for investigation. According to Kerlinger, a research hypothesis is a connective statement between two or more variables. Hypothesis is taken as the most important instrument in research process. The role of hypothesis is to guide researcher by fixing the research area and to keep him on the right track. Furthermore, it sharpens researcher mind and focus attention on important aspects of problems. Helps to determine the types of data to be collected and method of data collection. Example of hypothesis. Example: consider the following statements. Method A and method B are equally effective. There is no significant difference between federal Republican and monarchy. Radio broadcasting is the most effective medium of communication in context of Nepal. The velocity of matter may be greater than the velocity of light. The percentage of people living under poverty line is 25%. Theory, hypothesis theory. William J. George said that the hypothesis is different from theory, but they are closely related. There exists a bidirectional relational between them. When the hypothesis is tested and found correct, it becomes the part of theory. Usually hypotheses are generated from the concept of theory. Generalization of theory are hypotheses. Hypotheses are of different types. Simple hypothesis between two variables, complex hypothesis more than two variables, empirical hypothesis. We have to test the theory by real life situation data. Null hypothesis denoted by H0, alternative hypothesis denoted by H1, logical hypothesis, logic, not theory to test, statistical hypothesis, testing population based on sample, Types of hypothesis: null and alternative hypothesis. A hypothesis of no significant difference is called null hypothesis. We usually consider the nullity between two variables. That is, there is no significant difference between two variables or status of phenomenon. The hypothesis which is tested for the possible rejection under the assumption. Null hypothesis. A hypothesis of no difference. We consider there is null hypothesis or hypothesis of no difference. We consider there is no difference or relationship between variable or status. It is a hypothesis of possible rejection denoted by H. H. There is no change or increase in grade mark in rechecking the exam copy. Example: method A and method B are equally effective. There is no difference between results of B students in PU and TU. Such types of assumption is called null hypothesis and it is denoted by as not. Alternative hypothesis. The alternative hypothesis is the alternative statement of null hypothesis. Usually in alternative hypothesis there is some difference between two variables. A hypothesis of some difference. In this case we consider a significant difference or relationship between variable and status denoted by H. H. There is significant change or increase or decrease in grade mark in rechecking the exam copy. When null hypothesis is rejected, alternative hypothesis is accepted. The main function of alternative hypothesis is to specify the relationship that will be considered as true. Example: if we consider the statement as automobile A is more efficient than automobile B, this type of assumption is called alternative hypothesis and it is denoted by H1. Hypothesis testing results in either accepting hypothesis or rejecting hypothesis. If the sample results don't agree with the null hypothesis, it should be concluded that null hypothesis is not good. That is, we should search another alternative hypothesis. Research hypothesis. Example: let us suppose that the population mean is equal to the assumed mean 100. Then we have to set up null hypothesis as not mu is equal to 100. Mu is population mean. For as not mu equal to 100, we consider the following alternative hypothesis as h1 mu is not equal to 100, h1 mu is greater than 100, mu is less than 100, or h1 mu is greater than 100. Hypotheses or workable are hypotheses. Hypothesis should be clear and precise. The definition and term used in hypothesis should be such which are accepted commonly. The hypothesis should be simple and pointing to the problem. Hypothesis should be limited in scope. It must specific. Quality of hypothesis. It should be related to the body of theory. It should be capable of being tested or verified by an available technique. Hypothesis should be capable of empirical test. It should state relationship between variables. If it happens to be relational hypothesis, it should be consistent with most non-facts. Utilities of research hypothesis. It helps to guide the researcher by fixing the area of research problem. It helps to focus attention on important aspects of research problem and helps researcher to keep him on a right track. It helps to make experimental and observation possible. It forms the starting point of investigation. It helps in determination of ways of investigation. It helps in explanation. It helps in the process of inference drawn. Sources of hypothesis. Following are the sources of hypothesis: the resemblance between the phenomenon, observations from past studies, present day experience and from the competitors, scientific theories, general patterns that influence the thinking process of people, general culture, scientific theory, analogies, personal experience, induction and deduction technique. Source hypothesis. Theoretical framework, hypothesis source, previous research, real life experience, academic literature. Inductive reasoning, deductive reasoning. Sources of research hypothesis. General culture. In some studies, a hypothesis may be formulated with the help of general pattern of culture. The culture has a great influence upon the thinking process of people, and hypotheses may be formed due to test one or more of these ideas. Scientific theory. A theory gives us the basic idea of what has been found to be correct. The knowledge of theory leads to form further generalization and corollaries from it. These generalization and corollaries forms parts of a hypothesis. Analogies. Sometimes a hypothesis is formed from the analogy. A similarity between two phenomena is observed at the circumstance. A hypothesis is then formed to test whether two phenomena are similar in order circumstance to personal experience. Sometimes the facts are there, but a right individual see it in right perspective and formulates a hypothesis. Thus, for example, everybody had seen the falling of an apple from a tree, but Isaac Newton was only the person who could stick the idea of the force of gravitation. Source of hypothesis. As in the case of defining problem, there are few sources which helps researcher formulating hypothesis. Theory. One can derive hypothesis from management theories. Take for example Abraham Maslow's theory of hierarchy of need in motivation. Maslow suggested that the higher need comes to play when the lower need is satisfied. A hypothesis can be formulated related to this theory, as in spirituality oriented people Maslow's hierarchy of needs is not true. Observation. Routine observations of price movement in the marketplace, employees' behavior on the job, the movement of Sensex points and etc. may lead to new hypotheses. Example: the higher rate for organic produce is not related to lower production. Institution and personal experience. In certain cases, institution or intu, intu, intuition and personal experience. In certain cases, intuition or gut feelings help formulate hypotheses, but in many cases, experience of the researcher in a particular field over years guides to appropriate and meaningful hypotheses. Analogies comparison. Hypotheses can be formed based on the examples in other areas or disciplines. Review of literature. The habit of going through periodicals, abstracts, reviews, etc. will help locating hypotheses. As in the case of defining problem, the role played by review of literature in forming hypothesis is significant. General culture. The kaleidoscopic culture seen in different strata of the society and the well ingrained organizational culture in various corporates throw light in locating hypotheses. Here are some questions from research hypothesis. Define research hypothesis and its types. What are the utilities of research hypothesis? What are the quality of workable or good research hypothesis? Source of hypothesis. Mark 8 marks. In short note 4 marks. So this is the ending of today's slide. So this much for today. Thank you.